Hey there. I just wanted to show you some of the tools that I use when I paint with acrylic ink, and I'll try to demonstrate some of these while I'm using them. This is that crappy Home Depot bristle brush that I use to make all those little trees or blend some ink while they're still wet to get that organic look. This is a dagger brush or a sword brush that I use to actually most of the time paint trees, branches, any kind of weeds, organic stuff. And I also do the same thing with a stick. I like painting with a stick. You can dip it in the ink and make marks, and it's always a surprise with using any of these tools. That is just a plastic palette knife. It's really good for scraping and sculpting out areas. Just my normal 3/4 inch, half-inch angled flat brush. There's a chopstick. Here's a bamboo stick I found when I was working in the garden, and I just broke it off, and it gives a tip to it. Here's a piece of bark that I found that I haven't used yet, but it looks like it could have a lot of interesting textures, including monoprint. Anyway, I wanted to just do this as a preliminary so you can see the tools that I will be using, and I also include this very important one. This is what I use for my mister or atomizer or sprayer, whatever you want to call it. I find that it gives me good results even though I've used smaller ones. This one is the best. I got it online. And of course salt, just a container. You can get it at the grocery store, the camping kind. You don't need anything fancy. I don't particularly like sea salt or the bigger chunks. I think this works better for me. And of course the most important part of the painting tool is this guy, and this is just the stopper that comes with the ink. And I fill it full of ink, and as I make a line I squeeze it. I add some pressure to it, but I'll show you that in a little bit. And sometimes it's like most all of these tools that I'm using besides the brushes, you're going to get a surprise because you're going to run out of ink, or it's going to blob, or it's going to do something interesting. So it's kind of a risk-reward system or process. Anyway, I hope this will help you be more comfortable with attempting to try this process. Okay, I'm basically using two colors with this. This is sepia, and I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out on this plate and leave the cap loose. And this is indigo. And I just want to have a little bit available. Oops, I'm running it up. There you go. To have a little bit available so I can mix these two together and get some really cool neutrals. Anyway, I want to have this just a cheap plate so then I can mix color on it, and that's my palette. I also use this as far as a tool, very handy. Paper towel, paper Kleenex, whatever you like. Okay, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm holding the camera with one hand and doing my art with another. So I've got it here, and I'm just going to make up some random shapes. So I'm going to move it in the shape that I want, and I'm going to be squeezing it at the same time. So let's just see what happens. Oh, that's a pretty good line. It's going to be a lot there. And now I can just touch it, or I can squeeze it again, and I can add another line. And now what I want to do is I'm building volume with this. So I'm just dragging some of this ink down into this area. I have no idea what it's going to be yet. And when I do that, after I do that, I'm going to have to go back up top because I have to spray it, and then I'm going to pick up the pad and let it run. So it's basically, I'm just squeezing this as I go along to make lines with. Some of these lines are going to be dry. Some are going to be, see how that dries out. And I squeezed it just a tad there, and I'm just building off of that. So you'll just have to try it and get used to it. So that's my start for building this land mass, or whatever. I don't know yet.